Good morning, everyone. My name is Shrita Wadia, and this is my conspiracy theory final project on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. This is a table of contents of what I'm going to be going over. I'm going to be going over the history behind the actual assassination, some conspiracy theories surrounding it, debunking some theories, as well as giving my personal opinion on the topic at hand. To begin with, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who is referred to as JFK, was known as the 35th President of the United States and was assassinated on November 22, 1963 at 12:30 p.m. while riding in a motorcade in Dallas during a campaign visit. He had lived a fulfilling presidency. So going into the historical account behind JFK and his presidency as well as the assassination. So John Fitzgerald Kennedy, often referred to as JFK, was known as the 35th President of the United States, aligning with the Democratic Party. During his presidency, he dealt with a variety of action items such as the foreign crises with Cuba and Berlin, such as the Bay of Pigs invasion or the Cuban Missile Crisis. Ultimately, he was a quite popular president as he worked to improve the morale of not only the government but also the people in the country. While he was new to politics, he was a war hero and had experience in this topic as a senator for Massachusetts. So during this time, President Kennedy went to campaign in the streets of Texas since it was a hard and important state whose votes needed to be earned, especially for his re-election. A motorcade is a number of vehicles used for important figures such as political officials and was what JFK was riding in at the time. So going into depth into his assassination. At 12:30 on November 22nd, 1963, he was shot as he was riding through Dealey Plaza after turning right past the Texas School Book Depository in an open-top limousine. He was shot twice, once in the head and once in the neck. The streets lining the path of the motorcade were filled with crowds of people as they say the bullet hit the president's neck as he slumped over Miss Kennedy. The shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald, was a new employee at the book depository, and about 2 hours after the shooting, he was arrested for the assassination of JFK as well as for the shooting of Dallas patrolman J.D. Tippit. He also shot Governor Connolly, who recovered despite his serious wounds. Since the bullet had struck Kennedy and also struck the governor, it was referred to as the magic bullet. So further in the history regarding the assassination, the Warren Commission was an official commission established by the next president, President Lyndon B. Johnson, to investigate Kennedy's death. After investigating for a long amount of time, the official organization concluded that there was no special plots associated with the assassination, and alleged gunman Oswald had acted alone and shot the president from behind from a 6th-floor window at the Texas School Book Depository. The president had soon passed away due to the injuries from the shooting and had proper rituals performed shortly after. Additionally, after Lyndon B. Johnson quickly took the oath of the office in place of JFK, there was still a lot of debate surrounding the assassination and if Oswald had acted alone in the first place. So moving into the different conspiracy theories surrounding the assassination, the first one was one called the affair. In a certain manner, Lyndon B. Johnson helped arrange the assassination, and this was a popular conspiracy theory according to Dave Perry, a retired former insurance claims adjuster from Massachusetts who had been working to find the truth behind JFK's assassination since 1976. Statements made by Madeline Brown, an individual who claimed to have an affair with Johnson, mentioned how President Johnson had attended a party with past Vice President Nixon and other political officials. However, during the party, President Johnson whispered into Brown's ear, "After tomorrow, those Kennedys will never embarrass me again. That's no threat, that's a promise." And that's why certain people associated Lyndon B. Johnson with this shooting or killing of John F. Kennedy. The next conspiracy theory surrounded or was based on the military-industrial complex. As many individuals knew President Kennedy, he associated himself as the war hero, often referring to his efforts toward the troops during his presidency. This conspiracy started from the statement of how apparently Kennedy was going to pull more troops out of Vietnam around the wartime, but the military had a completely opposite idea. They actually wanted to bring more military individuals to Vietnam, and this difference in ideas might have caused the military to go against Kennedy and be behind his assassination. The third popular theory is based on the CIA, or the Central Intelligence Agency. So this theory is one of the most popular amongst all individuals. So with this, Kennedy was tired of all the incomplete abilities of the CIA. Kennedy found out that the CIA was trying to murder Cuba leader Fidel Castro, which is actually supported by research. In result, the CIA thought that Kennedy was going to break apart the Central Intelligence Agency since he did find out what they're planning to do, and therefore they ordered the assassination of Kennedy in order to prevent that, or prevent the dismantling of the group. One of the former heads of the CIA, fun fact, was actually part of the Warren Commission, which might hint to why the CIA was more behind this. And another conspiracy theory, last but definitely not least, was based on a film of Abraham Zapruder, who was one of the most important people because he filmed this entire assassination. He was filming John F. Kennedy's motorcade as he passed through the Dealey's Plaza in Dallas, Texas. The film was released and showcased the assassination of the president, and in the film, it seemed to show that the shot had come from in front of the president and not from Oswald's rifle in the back, which showed more support towards the group of people who argued that there had to have been a second shooter on Dealey's Plaza in a grassy knoll. In fact, there was an audio recording from Dallas's motorcycle policeman's microphone that mentioned that there were 4 shots, 3 from Oswald and 1 from another shooter, and the 4th shot, however, without any true evidence, was a miss and actually came from the grassy knoll. However, there is no true evidence on this shot or if it was actually from the bush in front of Kennedy. So reflecting upon these theories and explaining why some of them might be wrong or some not completely true, is based on some different evidence. So the first one, the affair, while this is a popular conspiracy, it's not one that's founded with a lot of evidence. Many Texans never liked or supported Lyndon B. Johnson, much so that this is also where the support of this conspiracy theory originated. However, according to Perry, there was no evidence found about this, so Madeline Brown might have just made up the whole thing and included false evidence in order to get us ideas riled up. In order to understand the reasoning behind this, why many people blame Lyndon B. Johnson for this assassination, I went ahead and researched more on the relationship between Johnson and Kennedy. Many sources mention how Johnson worked to expand his power but was limited due to the President Kennedy and his abilities. Oftentimes when asked about Kennedy's work in the Senate, Johnson had mentioned how Kennedy never did any work, which suggests that Johnson did not like Kennedy or was not a major fan of him. However, there is no concrete evidence that proves that Lyndon B. Johnson was behind this assassination. So the next one is going into depth behind the military-industrial complex and why many people thought that the military was behind this conspiracy. So there was no official statements made here. Many of the individuals who supported this popular conspiracy heard, not really saw, but heard Kennedy talk about trying to resolve the solution with the military individuals in Vietnam, but there was no official claim made that he was going to take the troops out of Vietnam. Therefore, it could have been false connections and just rumors being spread. The third theory that I'm going to talk about is the CIA. There was no true evidence, especially from Kennedy's side, that he was going to take apart the Central Intelligence Agency. There was no statements released that truly explained his perspective on the issue either. Therefore, it could have been a misinterpretation, people connecting ideas that aren't necessarily true, which could have led to many people believing that the CIA was behind this entire ordeal. And reflecting upon the last theory that I mentioned earlier, the possibility of a second shooter, where this might be wrong comes from the fact that there's many different interpretations of this film. In fact, scientist Nicholas Nally, one of the many people who interpreted this film, created a map about the shooting, as you can see to the right of the screen. This map strongly suggested that the president had to have been shot from the back, not the front, meaning it's unlikely that the president had been shot from the grassy knoll in front of him. The model the scientists then created illustrated the effect of the bullet if it was hit from the back, and the impact and the wound that JFK faced highly suggested that the bullet was fired from the Texas School Book Depository, which is what many people suggested, especially the Warren Commission. So based on these different conspiracies and why some of them might be wrong, I'm going to give my personal opinion on the issue. First and foremost, I don't think there's a second shooter. The physics actually showed the opposite perspective, and as someone who believes in science, there wasn't really a logical explanation based on the impact that Kennedy received that suggested a second shooter, meaning that the impact and the wound that he received didn't suggest that he was hit from the location and that a second shooter could have hit him. However, I do believe that there was an involvement of a second group during this event because of the variety of opinions regarding Kennedy's effort as a president. I think that group may have been the CIA because while the commission only determined that Oswald acted alone, many of the classified documents by the CIA are locked up, and therefore when some were released, especially the ones that contained information about JFK's assassination, those weren't really released, especially the specific details, which could have suggested that the CIA was behind it more than we thought they were. And ultimately, I do think that this event was planned beforehand and may have had an ulterior motive to shooting Kennedy rather than just shooting him just because. Additionally, the killing of a president is a large effort and surely includes planning or help from others rather than working alone, which suggests my opinion and reasoning behind why I think or what actually happened behind this assassination. That was my presentation on the conspiracy theory project surrounding JFK's assassination. These are my sources. Thank you for listening, and please let me know if you have any questions.